Glue Wednesday. You see, it's my belief that we don't have to get over. We need to find ways to keep it together. And my glue is G-L-U-E. God's love undoes everything. Because that's what keeps it together. That life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of each puzzle in your family, social, or business relationships. Yet, no matter what size puzzle piece you think you are, without you, the puzzle is labeled as incomplete. And welcome back. And welcome back to Glue Wednesday. A lot of times in life, we tend to welcome new guests as a possible sign of growth and appreciation. But let us not forget that the growth really comes from retention. And in business, that would be repeat or referral. So don't lose sight of that correlation in your life. So I thank those of you who have returned and are sharing this message. I remind you that we hear the same messages over and over again. It's not until our messenger delivers it that we get it. I appreciate you sharing the glue that helps them keep it together. Let me say up front, especially if I'm one of your messengers, that I'm not positive 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But I'm positive more than I'm negative. I'm up more than I'm down. I'm going forward more than I'm going backwards. And there's nothing wrong with every now and then reframing that going backwards to recognize that sometimes you just want to step back and take a look at your work. See all the glory that God has worked through you, which is why I've named this session Glue Wednesday. G-L-U-E. God's love undoes everything. Whereas most people like to consider Wednesday as hump day. But I think hump has the connotation of the need to get over. And we don't need to get over. We need to keep it together. And as many ways as possible that we can find it to keep it together should be our daily and momently. By the minute. There's no such word as momently. And you know I'm always going to talk to you about your vocabulary. Don't go here making up these words and then letting them become real. So it's important to look for God's love in everything that happens in your life. Okay? So I created a segment for that reason. And, okay, give me a second. Now, I doubt you will find a salve more reassuring and more bonding than God's love. So my topic for this broadcast is that bond that finds you perched in position to be the messenger you are. Today we're going to talk about personal power. What I'll do, and then I'll add a call to responsibility. And what I'll do is introduce you to 2.5 of my acronyms of power. I say 2.5 because I already had 2 set, but I came up with another addition when I started thinking about them and when I got to the second one. Then I'm going to connect those 2 and share 2 of my original poems from my book, Your Name Came to Mind. And in the middle, I'll introduce you to a wonderful salve of connection from the book of Psalms. So first, the acronyms. And these come from my book, Affirmations. AC for acronyms, formations, the bottom side, the back side of affirmations. You have to have the right amount of words in your vocabulary, because if you control your words rather than letting your words control you, then you have an opportunity to go much further in life. So the acronym we're going to talk about is POWER, P-O-W-E-R. Praying our wealth is eternal reward. Or P-O-W-E-R, positioning our words elevates rewards. And then the half from when I said that, and I said to myself, wait a minute, positioning our words elevates responsibility. Because once you have the reward, the responsibility has to get elevated. I always remind you how powerful words are, and controlling your vocabulary helps you control your life. So listen and see how that control is both a reward and a responsibility. Now, I've reworded the introduction from the book. This is the book, Your Name Came to Mind, that I'll be reading both of the poems from. This was actually my 3rd book, but my 2nd book of poetry. Lying, he said. This is the 3rd book of poetry. It was my 4th book, but my 3rd book of poetry. What I had planned for it to be was the sequel to my signature book, I Found Out I'm Dying, A Celebration of Life. About the fact that physically we're all dying from the day we're born. That's why this book was going to be called I Found Out I'm Living. Because as the first book talked about the physical self going away, this book was going to talk about the spiritual self coming too. But as it turns out, the publisher that I use already had a book with a similar title. So they asked me to change from I Found That I'm Living. And so I came up with, which is one of the poems in there, Your Name Came to Mind. What better message than to help people spark the joy of life? When somebody says to you, oh, I was just thinking about you. Oh, your name came to mind. Ding! Let's go back to what I told you. You are somebody's messenger. We hear the same messages over and over again. It's not until our messenger delivers it that we get it. And I'm going to show you some ways that you can see yourself as a messenger with what I'm going to share to you today. So I've reworded the introduction from the book to share on this broadcast, but here's the gist of it. The first poem was one of 10 written through the eyes of women and men who were caught up in the public aid system. Human beings shackled with the stereotype of being lazy, negative people, milking the system for years, not wanting to work, wanting an easy job where they got paid for doing little or nothing, or preferring to sit and watch TV. People who I found proved to be spiritual and concerned parents, some of whom had only been on aid for less than a year. Many were nervous or even scared of the life changes that were on the horizon. And that's right, a life change, not a job. And as you will see, people happy to join in focusing on the positive. Each poem that I wrote in the book was created through the words of audience members. Sessions conducted all began with a theme or word for the day, and then each word was treated as an acronym, and the members of the audience were asked to suggest complete positive words for each letter of the theme. Now, if you were reading the book, you'd see that the words in certain poems had capitalized first letters. Those were the words that were volunteered from the audience. The themes we used were self, thanks, life, women, soup, bread, and giving. The poem I'll share with this broadcast is using the theme self, S-E-L-F, self-esteem, love's foundation. You can't give anybody any type of love if you don't like yourself first. I think that liking ourselves is the cherry on the cake. How often do you hear someone say, I don't love myself? Not that often, but you have heard somebody say, including that person in the mirror, I don't like the way I look in this outfit. I don't like how I sounded. I don't like how I acted when I was with so-and-so. We hear ourselves constantly or consistently in some way telling ourselves we don't like something about ourselves. And we don't realize how that slowly just, chips at your self-esteem and takes away the gift that you really are. It takes away your ability to love someone. Why would you want to give someone an incomplete project? And that's you. We always want to use that cliche. Well, I'm a work in progress. Well, you are. Are you going to pass on an incomplete work, or you want to give the masterpiece away? Focus on giving the masterpiece. So see if you can hear the words that begin with one of those 4 letters as I read the poem. Now, I'll emphasize a few of them, but not all of them because it'll throw my rhythm off. And as you listen, hopefully what you'll feel is a pain and then a victory in your life's memory. For we all live one another's lives. As we share our experiences, we find our world more comfortably filled with imperfection that reminds us that we need not be flawless. What we need is only to be steadfast in God's path to glory. Immediately in the beginning, you'll hear one of my strongest beliefs, that most people are not afraid to fail. You see, when you fail, the pity party shows up to justify your failure, making you feel good about the fact that you weren't the right color, sex, shape, size, height, weight, educational background, and a list as long as you needed to be to feel good and feel like a mistreated victim. When you're successful, the fear is of success, because when you succeed, those same people stay away from you and whisper and wonder why they chose you. Who did you sleep with? Whose butt did you kiss? Yeah, you must have been pretty lucky. It's not luck. It's being as good as you are. So this poem is called The Journey Within. And again, listen for the words that begin with S-E-L-F. My next step surprised even me. On the outside, it was bold, without a care. My smile, my walk, my actions aimed at the success so many have come to fear. For the challenge to maintain and repeat this pace has damaged many a fickle spirit and erased the lazy disposition. Fortunately, my path continues to feed and fulfill my stride to excellence through education. And as the vision of my fruitful ascension takes its shape, I feel empowered to describe myself in words that emulate my splendor. Smart, energetic, likable, funny, even stupendous, effervescent, luxurious, and fabulous, as this heightened interior awareness decorates a lavish exterior of sensitivity. My surroundings' adjustments to my rejuvenated lifestyle allows itself to freeze in its tracks, while my focus on the prize cushions my every step. Family, friends, and fantasy strengthen my commitment to survive, as my search to flourish rather than exist becomes the passion that keeps me alive. My road widens in anticipation of the emotional celebration of a heart flushed with love, excitement, and stimulating thoughts of myself that suddenly become captured as the reality that guides my faithful landing in everlasting silence. And yes, this is only the beginning, the journey within. So in there you see power, P-O-W-E-R. Praying our wealth is eternal reward. Can we look in ourselves, can we really believe that the life on earth is not the gift, but it's the gift of ascending to heaven is what we're looking for? Your journey is about personal power. And the psalm I want to share with you and connect to this poem in that journey is Psalm 147 and 10, which says, "The strength of a horse does not impress him. How punny in his sight is the strength of a man." The Bible I read is called the Touchpoint Living Bible. And what it does is it breaks down Scripture into nice plain English with modern day analogies that you can use to connect to Scripture. It's similar to concordance, but it's not on every single point. Just every now and then it gives a topic that you can use in your everyday life. So for instance, the topic through this Psalm, 147:10, is actually abilities. We may long to have the abilities and talents of others, but would we be properly equipped to use them? We may not want to pay the price another has paid to become an accomplished musician, a wealthy businessman, a highly skilled athlete, or a great writer. Nor may we want to carry the burden of continuing to use those talents faithfully. We really don't know why God hands out talents and abilities the way he does, but the Bible makes it clear that what God has given to each of us, if used faithfully, will accomplish great things. God often takes joy in using those the world thinks are lacking in ability, the talent to accomplish his plans. And if you think back to, if you've been with me long enough, one thing you'll know is that I always say, we are not on the planning committee. We are on the implementation crew. And only God is on the planning committee. So as often as people like to use the cliche, God works in mysterious ways. Bulletin, no, he doesn't. He's crystal clear. When we don't know the plan, we don't need to push it off to some type of mysterious or magical explanation because of something that we just don't understand. And God's goodness is something that we don't always understand. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. But recognize that you are someone's messenger. Please show up as you. Because when you show up as you, that is the only time your message can be delivered in its fullest. The only time you will fail is when you decide to be someone else. So what we really have to do is find ways to redefine our personal success so that it does not become glued to and connected to somebody else's definition of what they want us to be. And the truth is, a lot of times you're listening to people who are asking you to take a risk that they wouldn't take. And through that risk, they want you to see yourself as successful by actually pleasing them by the choice that you make. And the choice is that you're choosing the wrong messenger. Now, the introduction to this closing poem can be read almost exactly as it's written in the book. What's not in the book is its attachment to the acronym and how I now see it, because it's got that half a thing that I added to it, as well as the message you'll hear about personal reward and responsibility. You see, so often we want to justify, oh, this is the introduction in the book. So often we want to justify trials and tribulations in our lives as acts of the devil. Oh, the devil made me do it. The devil, no. But see, I think that the twists, turns, and drops in my life have all come compliments of God's love for me and mine for God. There is no other power at work in my life. The deeper I look within, the more joy I find in sharing my gift with you. May this closing poem remind you to stay the path of faith that has delivered you today. Know that each of us is in place right now to save a life. Know that there is no life more important to save than your own, because yours is an intricate message that simply cannot be shared that simply cannot be duplicated and must be shared. Listen for how power, P-O-W-E-R, positioning our words elevates responsibility. In the poem, Power Unveiled. When we realize how truly powerful we are, we must now overcome fear. When I wanted, I saw what to strive for. As my need grew, I knew just what to do. And now that I'm there, I must choose what I can share. For the air up here is new, and its exhilaration is not so unfamiliar to my ego, nor uncomfortable to my touch, unpalatable to my taste, illogical or unrecognizable. Yet my neighbors are doubt, disbelief, and caution. And as I consider their comfort, they exhibit more unrest. And I become prone to shut them out. Instead, I invite them up. You are somebody's messenger, so please appear as you. Doubt, disbelief, and caution want to become ingredients in your comfort zone, but for the wrong reasons. And if you remember the songs you sing and the words you proclaim, no weapon formed against me, the battle is not mine, whom should I fear? If you will recall those words, you get better at accepting and using your power for good. Life, with all its power, is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of the puzzle in every family, business, or social interaction that you have. Yet no matter what size piece of the puzzle you see yourself as, without you, that puzzle is called incomplete, and your power could go unused. Consider booking me to share messages such as this, as well as my consistent message of positivity and power. My information and books are all located and available at sportyking.com. And I'll see you next week right here on the Wake Up Call Radio and TV network for Glue Wednesday. Until then, your power will be challenged. So you need to make sure that you've got the right glue, G-L-U-E, God's love, to undo everything in your path, because your path is the one that needs to be walked. Thank you. God bless you. See you then. Woo!